Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news where we're going to be focusing a lot on the start of the show on your thoughts, but mainly going to be talking about Ralf Rangnick in his own words. I think so many people, we now have him as the official manager. There are some stories we need to talk about his work permit, about his involvement in the management and why it probably won't be Poch. But I want to talk about Ralf Rangnick, what we're going to get, why you should be excited, why there's no guarantees, but why it's going to be very different. Because I think the trouble is, when somebody talks about Rangnick and this, that and the other, people go, oh, you only found out of him on a Wikipedia page on Thursday. When, you know, in the case of most of us, that's not very fair. So what I want to look at is Rangnick in his own words and this 5 key principle that he has in relation to Manchester United and what he's going to bring to this football club. So very interesting. I think the key line, and we're going to go a lot deeper, is I want to play rock and roll football, not slow waltz football. We hate sideways passing, basically. And when you look at it like that, rock and roll football, like Rangnick said, is Klopp. Slow waltz football is what we've seen at United for the last 6 years. Sideways passing, which he doesn't want. So instantly off that sentence, you can see where we're going to go. So we're going to get a lot into what Ralf Rangnick has been saying about football over the last few years and what these principles are going to mean in relation to Manchester United. Also, some interesting things coming from The Athletic about why it might not be Pochetino as our manager. I want to talk a little bit about what I think is going to happen with this team and who's going to come into it. Get into your questions as well as talk about a few other things. A lot of people talking about the Ballon d'Or. What a surprise that Messi wins it. And look, in fairness to Messi, I think if that had been Ronaldo would have won it. For the last decade and more, if Ronaldo or Messi have a half-decent season, they win the Ballon d'Or. No one else has got a look in. I would have given it to Lewandowski, but I thought it was very obvious that Messi would win it because I've seen Ronaldo win it when maybe he shouldn't have won it. I've seen Messi win it when they shouldn't have won it. They're GOAT players, but let's be honest, we all knew it was going to be Messi. Anyway, talking about Messi, that doesn't work, but today's show is sponsored by Cards Plug. So before we even get into the show, it is the real Ballon d'Or winner. Should have been this guy. Cards Plug are an awesome custom football cards that are the perfect gifts for any football fan. And keep watching because they've got an amazing discount for you because it's Cyber Monday. Cards Plug cards are amazing Christmas presents that makes perfect decorative items. You can use them in your man cave, on your wall, on your woman cave, or kids' playroom. I don't know whether I want it to be diverse there, so I said man cave, woman cave, and I bet people will take it the wrong way. The cards have also been made of extra strong stuff. However, now Cards Plug have also launched their strongest cards ever, which you won't be able to see the full detail of, but these are metal ones that will go on your wall. They are, some would say, almost unbreakable, but they're very, very good. As you can see, the detail in them is absolutely fantastic. The online card plug creator is a really simple way to customise every part of your football cards. You can even make up your own custom stats. You can put your own numbers in there, your own position, flag, badge. It doesn't even have to be you. It could be me. It could be with your favourite player and then all your favourite things. So absolutely fantastic. You could have collectibles of 4 or 5 of your best players. It's up to you. So do yourself a favour and get your Christmas shopping done early and make the football fan in your life the happiest they've ever been. And remember, this offer ends at midnight on Tuesday the 30th of November and won't be around again until next year. So hit the link in the video description. They're giving away a 30% discount to United Stand viewers, and when you spend over £50, that gives you a massive 35%. So thank you very much to Cards Plug for all their support. And remember to click the link in the description and get this amazing discount offer that, as I said, runs out tomorrow. And we are very decorative in the Christmas United Stand studio here. It's snowing out the window and we're ready to go. So let's talk about Ralf Rangnick. Look, I'm going to go through 5 points and then I think we'll build out from there. So effectively, Ralf Rangnick was on the Coach's Voice, which I'm sure many of you have seen. So I want to give those 5 points that come from his mouth and then adapt those into the show and get involved in what you want to say about it as well. Because I do think that there are players that people will instantly think are going to be in trouble in this team. When he talks about his defensive line, which I'll speak about in a minute, you instantly think, how does Harry Maguire suit that? Over the last 3 years he's been at Manchester United. Brexit always given us British new freedoms. Look at all the freedom we enjoy, like waiting for ages for a new manager to come, says Red Baron. Well, just before we jump into that, I don't even know if Ralf Rangnick's in the country. If anybody knows, please let us know in the chat. I don't even know if he's in the country. So it's looking ridiculously unlikely that he will not be at Manchester United's Carrington ground tomorrow training, maybe not even Wednesday. So even if he did take the team on Thursday, what involvement is he going to have? There'll be no drills. He hasn't got a coaching team coming with him. And if he did, they'd have work permit problems. So effectively, the next couple of days is Carrick, McKenna and Phelan again. Which, look, I think if we have a Rangnick coach team for for Thursday. I'm confident that we can get a result. If it's the Carrick coach team, I'm it's up in the air again. So I'm very interested to see when we're going to get any news on what happens with Rangnick. And what I would say is, look, have United dragged their feet a little bit on this? We'll never know. But it was Thursday when we were meant to get him, and they've obviously got caught in paperwork again. The same paperwork that happened with Varane. Remember, Varane went on for a long time. So some people are saying it's because of Brexit and work permits, but we need that bounce, and we can't afford to lose against Arsenal. But that previews tomorrow. That's for another day. Let's talk about the principles of Rangnick then. So these are from the words of Rangnick himself, the 5 core principles. We haven't spoken about this on the channel before. I know exactly what we've spoken about on the channel before, and we haven't spoken about Rangnick in his own words. We've spoken about what we think as individuals. This is the United stand. Couldn't give two shits about the Ballon d'Or. If you want to go and talk about the Ballon d'Or, go and find a channel that's talking about the Ballon d'Or. I've got no interest in it. Told you about it. Not going to talk about it. Mark wasn't here last week on Monday. Maybe he stayed because of quarantine, says Tony Bain. Okay. So look, these are the 5 principles that Rangnick spoke about. First of all, how do we play? How do we play? What is our principles as a team? And he says we play rock and roll football. And he referenced Jurgen Klopp. He said we play heavy metal football. We hate sideways passing. We want to go forward. We're not playing a slow waltz. So straight away, that's a big tick, isn't it? We want to play rock and roll football. Manchester United in the mid-90s, Britpop, we were rock and roll. That's what Man United were. Cantona, Hughes, Keane, Giggs. It progressed through in the class of 92. Manchester United were rock and roll football. So having a manager that wants to play a bit of rock and roll football, what is rock and roll football? It's on the front foot. It's attacking football. It's quick football. It's not slow waltz football. What's slow waltz football? Slow waltz football is what we've seen at Manchester United for the last 6 years. Maybe in the last 7 years. Because let's be honest, Van Gaal the last year was slow. Mourinho was slow. And Ole's football was slow. We've had slow waltz side to side. I mean, how many times have we spoken about this as fans? You see a Fred or a McTominay get the ball, put their foot on it, pass it back to each other, go back to Maguire, who puts his foot on it, passes it to Shaw, gives it back to Fred, who puts his foot on it and passes it to McTominay. We've been watching this side to side crab football for a good 6 years, and the great thing about Klopp is that somebody just said Ollie wasn't slow waltz, he was classic FM. Yeah, well, we're hard rock cafe now, but the reality is the way we've played for the last 6 or 7 years is absolutely the opposite of the way that Rangnick wants to play. So when he says how do we play as the core principle number 1. Well, how you play with him is rock and roll football. The core principle number 2 of 5 is how do we react to the ball with the opposition. So how do we react when the ball have got the opposition? And this is before the game. This is not in the game. So core principle 1 is how we approach this game. And he wants to play on the front foot, moving the ball forward, rock and roll football. The second principle is how do we react to the opposition when they've got the ball? And what that means is how high is our line? How high do we press them? Do we let them have the ball? Do we drop back a bit? Do we go on the front foot? And that is what he's talking about there. And he goes on to say that it's not just about, how aggressive it's about intensity. It's about being intense with the way that you play the game. But it's also about being intense through a stage. And what that means is if you've got to be, if you're going to be aggressive in winning the ball back, how aggressive are you then going to be when you've got the ball back? And he referenced when they were at Leipzig, and he's very good on this sort of thing. And he said when we were at Leipzig, we looked at it and 60% of our goals were scored within 10 seconds of winning the ball back from the opposition. So it's that aggression to win the ball back, and then it's that aggression to go and do something with the ball quickly when you get it. And that's fascinating stuff, isn't it? Because that's, again, not something that United really been that good at. Can McFred play heavy metal style football? Well, look, clean slate, Ravi, let's wait and see. So second principle is how we're going to, in principle 1, how we're going to approach the game. Principle 2, how we're going to approach the opposition when they've got the ball before the game. Mark, how soon do you think we will get United players' way? Should we be worried about any backlash with the current setup? Well, can we talk about that in a bit, Reswan? Because I think there will be backlash. At the end of the day, this is a foreign coach who's never managed here before, who most of the media don't know. And look at Ronaldo. People know Ronaldo. Ronaldo's been abroad for nearly 10 years. Comes back, everybody loves Ronaldo. The media loves Ronaldo. 2 months later, there's this weird agenda that United are shit because of Ronaldo. It's ridiculous. So, of course, this is the Rangnick's great period. I'll guarantee you the Rangnick's not so great period is going to come from the media and maybe fans at some point. Core principle number 3 is how do we react to the ball when the others, when they've got the ball? And, you know, what that means is, and why that's different to how we play is, in game, when they get the ball, how do we react to them? How do we react when they've got the ball? Do we press higher? Do we press lower? Do we you know, contain them? So that's very important. I mean, it's a bit of an adaptation on point 2 and 1, but these are the in-game decisions. And then how do we react when we lose the ball? So, you know, when they've got the ball, but how do you react when we lose the ball? So it's all about aggression, intensity again. And then point 5 is set pieces. And I loved this, what he said, is that 30% of goals conceded come from set pieces. And he actually goes on to say, on the coach's voice, how much time do we as coaches spend on set pieces? Because we don't spend 30% of our time on it, but we should do, because 30% of goals come from set pieces, whether that's corners, free kicks, etc. So, you know, these are 5 principles that he's talking about. And I think when you all encompass that for what we've got at Manchester United, ultimately, this is why there's a lot of excitement around the club, is that, you know, some people say, well, does he talk the talk? But he has been talking the talk and trying to implement the walk for most of his managerial career, and also his director of football roles or building a football club. It is about intensity. It is about aggression. And the one thing I did want to talk about, and he mentioned this, is that it's important. These are his own words again. It's about where we win the ball back. Do we win the ball higher up the pitch, which means they've got less players when we do win it. There's less distance to cover to the goal, and there's less players there. And what that means is, if you think about a team, you know, you think about Chelsea yesterday. If we press Rudiger better and win the ball back from Rudiger, you're in on goal. If you press Jorginho better, you win the ball back, you're closer to the goal, you've just got to get through the back 4. If you let that team come all the way into your own half, which we did a lot yesterday, and you win the ball back from Loftus-Cheek or Hudson-Odoi, you're deep in your own half, it's a long way to your goal, and there's a couple of levels of Chelsea players. And again, this is very basic, but it's also very intelligent. And what I purposely left into the show when we're 10 minutes in is because I want the hardcore United Stand viewers to watch this and not just the first 2-minute clickers, is what I love about Ralf Rangnick is that, and I love it about Tuchel, and I love it about Klopp, and I love it about Pep, is that we now have a manager that will sit and talk to us about tactics in press conferences. We've had a manager for the last 3 years who, when he's asked about tactics, says, well, we could talk and talk and talk about it. Like, never wanted to talk about tactics at all. And we used to talk about it as a fan base and say, well, it's because he doesn't know what he's on about. You know, that's probably a bit harsh. Or I just felt he wasn't confident. Or more importantly, he was probably a little bit embarrassed. You know, his tactics were basically, you know, you listen to what Klopp says, what Tuchel says, what Rangnick says. If Ollie was telling you his principles would be, let them have the ball, win it back, and try and catch them out. That's probably what we were trying to do, and win the ball back, you know, deep. I think what we have in a manager now is that we have this manager that's going to talk to us openly about what we're doing. After a game, I imagine we're going to get, we won this game because we did this. We won it high up here. We took advantage of their inability to pass through us. We pressed them. Or we lost this game because we didn't do this bit well. And I think that's going to be really interesting, because I think as United fans, we've been deprived over the last 6 years, certainly, of, you know, good football, but also encouraging tactical analysis from those running our football team. So I think we're going to get this, and I think it's going to be very interesting. So when he says, like, it's about how high we win the ball back, well, that's a decision set by the coach. If we decide to do what we did against Chelsea and try and win the ball back on the edge of our box, it's a long way to go to get to their box. But Rangnick might say, you know, we're playing Burnley. I want to win the ball back on the edge of their box. I want to suffocate them on the edge of their box. And it's interesting how, welcome to the Members Club, Rezwan. It's interesting, I mean, I love all this stuff anyway, but it's interesting because there's a Chelsea example in a minute, who is Tuchel, and there's a Liverpool example I want to give you here. I watched Liverpool play Leicester about a year ago. It was at Anfield. There was no fans in the ground, I don't think. Leicester were in good form. I quite fancied Leicester to beat them. In fact, it might have been 2 years ago because I'll get lost in COVID. But it's very relevant because Klopp is very similar to Rangnick. So Leicester were coming to Anfield on a good run of form. Liverpool, I think, beat them. They might have scored 4, but they could have had 10. Leicester just couldn't get out. I was watching the game and I was like, Leicester are a good team. And also, they've got Vardy for the long ball, but they couldn't get out. Like, basically, Van Dijk and whoever played with him was on the centre circle. The fullbacks were basically wingers. The midfielders were almost like at the position of a number 10, and the forwards were right on the edge of Leicester's box. And they just couldn't get out. For 45 minutes in the first half, they just couldn't get out. Now, that's an example of we're going to win the ball back very high up. And Leicester just couldn't get out. So hopefully we will see this happening with United. But it's just, when Rangnick says it's about where we win the ball back, how high up we win the ball back. And I think, ultimately that's what it means. It's like if you're playing a Burnley at Old Trafford, you might see Manchester United centre-backs right on the halfway line with Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, if they're the full-backs, almost as forwards. And our front line very far forward. And the reason I mention this is that I think Ronaldo is going to play a lot of football for Manchester United. Now, if I just quickly go to here, I don't really want to do this, but if you imagine Ronaldo here, Rashford's here, Sancho's here, Burnley have got the ball, I don't know, here, Bruno's here, maybe Donny's playing here, McTominay would have to be on the bench, Fred is here, Luke Shaw's here, Wan-Bissaka's here, and you've got two centre-backs like that. Look at that. And that's basically what I'm talking about a very high press. Now, people go, Ronaldo don't run around a lot. Has he really got to run around a lot? It's about positional sense in a high press. Ronaldo ain't got to sprint here to here to here. People think about Ronaldo doesn't run around a lot. And I'll guarantee 90% of people who think about Ronaldo not running around a lot are thinking about when he's on the attack here, on his own, and he's not sprinting from the right back to the left back, which is a lot of running. If you've got a high press, look at how many players there are there. You're within 5 minutes of a red shirt. 5 metres. It's 5 minutes normally. That's not a lot of running. That's just positional sense. So people don't even understand what pressing is when they go, Ronaldo don't press much. They think he's not like running a marathon every game. Doesn't need to. It's about positional sense. And when you play a high press, everyone's very close to you. It's about covering the space collectively. So look, I think we will see that high press, and I think it's going to shock a lot of people because we've not done it for a long time. We need to see quick change, but can we expect it, says Nicholas. And I recall we used to do that with Sir Alex way back. We had the likes of Hargreaves, Rooney and Ronnie, says Sumi Kui. Well, yeah, just going back to that thing about quick progression. Of course, we're talking about pressing and winning the ball back, and it was already well known anyway, but Rangnick is very much about how aggressive you are when you win the ball, but how aggressive you are with the ball when you've got it. And look, it's been mentioned a few times. Can you score a goal within 10 seconds of winning the ball back? That's not about winning the ball back, having a little foot, doing a little bunny hop, doing a pirouette and passing it back to Harry Maguire. That's not going to be allowed. So either these players are going to have to drastically change how they play football, or they're going to be out on their arse, aren't they? It's about drive, it's about power. We stay hungry, we devour, but in the work, put in the hours and take what's ours, says Lil. Sign him up. Klopp has always said the best playmaker is counter-pressing. Only worry for me, Mark, is I hope we don't become a bad imitation of Liverpool's game, says Amit S. But you know what, Amit? I've always said this, and I said it before Liverpool got successful. I said the only team I think that's playing anything like the way Sir Alex Ferguson used to play is Liverpool under Klopp. I think that, we're not, Klopp is not the same as Sir Alex, but the amount of late goals Liverpool scored when they first burst onto the scene, their wing play, their commitment to get people into the box. Well, I remember Manchester United vividly under Sir Alex. Gary Neville, Evra bombing on past Beckham and Giggs, and Ronaldo, and Dennis Irwin, and even people like Silvestri. They still, it's been a principle. I'm giving you some examples there, but Manchester United's fullbacks bombing on, Old Trafford roaring, Scholes getting in the box, front twos, whatever. United have always been about that and a high press. And look, you think about Ferdinand and Vidic. They literally used to stand on the halfway line and send the fullbacks forward, So that's what we've got to try and do. That's what we're trying to do at Manchester United. And the second thing I wanted to say as well is that when he was talking about the defence, now this is something that's really, really, really. The Lewandowski doesn't press like a moron as well. Ronaldo never ran around like an idiot. Owen Hargreaves, Rooney and Park covered a lot of space as Summerjet. And this for me is the most important bit. And this is from Rangnick's mouth as well. It's about the high defense. He wants to play a high defense, and it's about close marking when you have a high defense. So basically, I'll go back to this. If you've got, let me just pull everybody away here. Imagine Ronaldo is the striker, and everything's happening down where those players are. So you've got Ronaldo on the halfway line as their striker, you'd have one in front and one behind. It's called a sandwich defence, right? You still have a high line, but you have one in front and one behind. So that if that ball goes into his feet, one of your centre-backs goes towards that to try and win it with him, so he can't get the ball. And if it goes behind, one of your centre-backs is behind. But it's still a very, very high line. Now, that got me thinking about Harry Maguire. Because one of the things about Harry Maguire I've noticed is that, and look, Everton is always a game that stands out to me. We played Everton at Goodison Park. They've got Calvert-Lewin, who's good in the air. Who's marking Calvert-Lewin? Lindelof. Who's the sweeper centre-back free? Maguire. Maguire has spent a lot of time over the last 2 years being the sweeper defender, even though he's massive and good in the air. So if you are to play a high line, instantly people think about Harry Maguire and he's going to have a problem. But Rangnick himself said, when he was talking on the coach's voice, you don't need to be quick to play a high line because it's about how you position yourself. So I don't think that Harry Maguire's in major danger under Rangnick, but I think he's going to develop his game. And I talk about the Chelsea game again. Chelsea yesterday, the way they positioned to press us high up the pitch was really good. And there was that one I was talking to Paul Ince about today, where I think Wan-Bissaka had it. Chelsea approach him and close all the passing lanes apart from one, which is a 40-yard forward pass into the feet of Jadon Sancho. So he plays the ball into the feet of Jadon Sancho, and it's almost as if Chelsea are funneling him to play that pass. They've given that gap. There's 4 players around Wan-Bissaka closing various passing lanes, but they've shown this gap into Sancho. A 40-yard pass along the ground, which is, that a 40-yard pass along the ground it's time. And that's what Chelsea are doing. So they funnel him to play this pass. What happens when that goes into Sancho's feet? Alonso wants it more and runs in front of him and wins the tackle. And that is the second wave of a press. And that is what Rangnick's talking about. It's like you do what you do with your high press or your press from your forwards and your midfielders, but you also have high line with your centre-backs who, if that ball goes into the feet of the striker, one of them's coming in to try and win it, and if it goes over the top, the other one wins it. So for me, Varane would be good at both of those, but we don't have 2 Varanes. So if Maguire's going to be in this team, I think he's going to have to become the centre-back that actually attaches himself to the striker tightly. Because if the ball goes over the top, Harry Maguire's not going to be that centre-back that can deal with a Jamie Vardy. He's going to have to be the one that deals with Vardy if the ball comes into his feet and wins it that way. So if Harry Maguire's going to be successful at Manchester United and we're going to play a high line, I don't think he's in trouble, but I think he's going to have to change the way he's been defending at Manchester United for the last 2 years, because you'll know it when I say everybody plays with one striker. Most of the time, Harry Maguire is not the one marking the striker. It's Lindelof or it's Bailly or it's Varane, and Maguire makes himself the free man. Well, it's all right being the free man if you're Harry Maguire and you're playing a deep line, because you don't have to worry about the ball over the top. He won't like being the free man when we're playing a high line. He's going to have to learn to be the man who goes and wins the ball. And also, Harry Maguire would be better at that, because if we funnel Leicester, so pass a 40-yard pass into the feet of Vardy, and Harry Maguire's there 50-50 and wins it back, the momentum of winning it back, Harry Maguire's actually quite good at driving forward. So that's what I feel the future for Harry Maguire at Manchester United will be. He's going to have to become the high-line centre-back who doesn't deal with the ball over the top. He deals with the ball into feet and goes and wins it and gets physical. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm very, very excited to see how it's going to work. But yeah, the five principles of what Rangnick in his own words spoken about. And I think as a summary, we are going to see a high line. It's going to be really interesting to see how high the press starts. I think against the lesser teams, we'll be pressing them right on the edge of the box, which is going to mean a lot more exciting. We have been a slow waltz team for 6 years. We're now going to be a rock and roll team. We're not going to see sideways crab football. We're going to see a Manchester United that, look, it might not work. It might not work in the sense that, we still might finish third or second. And look, I'll say that straight away. We might, Mourinho finish second, Ole finish second. Just because we're going to play football doesn't mean better football doesn't mean we're going to win the league. But I tell you what, I'd much rather finish third and play good football than finish second and see what Mourinho and Ole did. So look, the problem we're going to have now is, do we have the personnel to take us to the levels of a Chelsea or a Liverpool or a Man City? And that's a completely different argument. Do we have the players? Because I think we're certainly going to have the ideology, and it's about how quick that they can adapt to that. But I genuinely think we're going to see a very, especially over the next few weeks, we're going to see a very different Manchester United. We should see a hell of a lot more goals. Rangnick is also about not conceding goals, even though it's a very attacking side. You've got to work hard. So it's not about, being wide open. I think we're going to see some really entertaining football. And, on the horizon, I think the Brentford game's going to be very good because of the way they play. I think the Brighton game's going to be very good because of the way they play. Norwich, I'd expect us to get a few against them. I just think Arsenal and Palace are probably a little bit too soon, but who knows. Mark, thoughts on 20 legend banner being displayed against Arsenal or for Ole? Do you think this is disrespectful and undermining of Ralf? Personally, I do, says Zach. Surely players like McTominay with their signature lateral passing have no chance under Rangnick, says Cars. But you know what? There's 2 points there. In relation to Scott McTominay, and I'm more than happy to talk about him because it's not going to be in a negative. I feel that, I would not like to see Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna and Mike Phelan stay at the club because I think on Ollie's been hung out to dry. And he was only a small proportion of that management team. As the manager, he deserved the sack, 100%. But I think it's history will say that Ole took the brunt of the blame and the others survived, and I think that's a bit unfair. But moving away from that fairness, I'm not actually that bothered about if Michael Carrick keeps a job at the club, because you know what? Put it like this: you run I don't know. We always do restaurants, so let's do something a little bit different. You run a pub, slightly different. Right, you run a pub. No, we're not going to do a pub. We can run anything we like. We're live. What would we like to look? What would we like to run? I've always thought I'd like to run a deep sea diving company. So it's a nice weather. Tourists come. Can you take us out deep sea diving? Right. So you run the company. You're the CEO. We're not running a brothel. We could have run a brothel, but it's probably a little bit before the watershed. So the brothel would have worked really well. I'll tell you what, I'll do that on my Christmas special. So we're running a deep sea diving business. I'm in charge, and I've got Michael Carrick, who's took over from Ole, who's sunk a couple of boats, right? So I've got Rangnick coming in next week, but for a week, Michael Carrick, you're running my deep sea diving business. Now, I know you were a big part of the problem, you prat, but you were even driving one of the boats. But we'd have been better with a bus. That's what the song was all about. Shut up, we're a boat business. Anyway, so we get Carrick to do it for a couple of trips, and it goes without problem. Again, he still drives a little bit too close to the rocks, but he gets away with it. So I keep him on when Rangnick comes in, right? But Rangnick teaches him how to drive the boat properly and in a more efficient way that everyone finds more entertaining. Ole was taking people to the shallow part of the sea, where Rangnick takes them out where the dolphins and the sharks are. And Rangnick teaches Carrick how to do it well. I don't have a problem with Carrick staying at Manchester United. I don't have a problem with Manchester United keeping Carrick, because I know whatever he was doing wrong before, Rangnick won't allow it anyway. So I'm not really that fussed. And if he keeps doing it wrong, he'll be gone. So I'm not really bothered about that. And the same thing for me occurs with Scott McTominay, who is an example to many of the players that we have. Scott McTominay was doing a lot of things wrong under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, as was Fred, as was Harry Maguire, as was Luke Shaw, as was Rashford, as was Martial. Lots of players played. Bruno recently, whether they're favourites or players that you don't like, even Ronaldo. A lot of them have had bad games recently. And I believe a lot of that's to do with coaching. Now, if Rangnick comes in and says to Scott McTominay, I never want to see your little bunny hop again. I never want to see you control it with your right foot, do your little pirouette with your left foot and pass it sideways again. I want to see you stop bunny hopping, stop pirouetting, stop passing it to Harry Maguire. I want to see you move on to the ball without taking a touch and pass it forward every time you can. I want to see you do that. I want to see you move forward. I want to see you press. And if he does all those things and becomes a better player, what's the problem? He still might get picked ahead of Donny because he might do the job better than Donny. So, people are writing people off, and I always said I would give them that. I always said I would give them a clean slate. If I'm absolutely honest, I think there's certain players I'd be very surprised if they have a future at Manchester United. But good coaching, development. I've always said Mason Greenwood and Marcus Rashford have not been developed over the last 3 years. I'll be stunned if Ralf Rangnick doesn't get hold of those two players and say, get your head up, press like this, position yourself like this. When you get the ball, look for the pass. Because I tell you what, everyone talks about Harry Maguire. Everyone talks about McTominay's inability to pass and Fred's inability to pass and don't pick up the runners and Maguire's too slow and this, that and the other. Right? Fair enough, right? Do people talk about Marcus Rashford's inability to use the ball effectively? Now, if you think about Rashford recently, how many goals has he got and how many assists has he got? Not that many. People talk about he didn't press very well yesterday. Well, that's fine. You can sort that out. But imagine what happens with Ralf Rangnick, right? Fred, against Arsenal, hits the ground running, right? He goes high. He closes down Partey. He wins the ball back. He instantly gets it to Rashford in his stride, who skips past Tomiyasu, and he's running at an angle that the shot really isn't on. And he's got his head down, and Ronaldo pulls away from Ben White. He's there for the tap-in. We're going to score a goal from a recovery within 7 seconds. Rashford doesn't look up. He doesn't look up, and then he just shoots it into the side netting. Do you think Rangnick's going to go, ooh, he's a good player? He's going to go, we've done the recovery high up the pitch. We've moved the ball forward. We're moving in on goal. Ronaldo's there open for the pass and the tap in, and he's not got his head up. It's not just about... Everyone's obsessed with Rangnick about, oh, we're going to play a high line, he's going to press this, that and the other. But he said it himself, the hint is there. It's not just about how aggressively you win the ball back. It's how aggressively you are and efficient you are when you win the ball back. And what's the problem with Mason Greenwood and Rashford on the wing? They don't get their head up. They're looking to get shots off. That is not efficient unless you score the goal every time. We are dealing with the old stereotypical German efficiency here. And we now have a manager who, if Greenwood hits 10 shots and 2 of them go in the top corner, he will say 80% of the time you're wasting that opportunity. So that is going to be very important. People talk about, Rashford needs to press better and this, that and the other. I think these players are going to be developed better. I think Rashford's going to be told, get your head up. Sometimes you skip past your player in a good position, pass it across, we score a goal, you're the hero because you've got the assist. And I think that's what we're going to see. Mark, they've announced you as the best entertainer of the year 2020 in the Ballon d'Or this Sunday. I tell you what, those FIFA career modes were lit. I'll never forget 15,000 people watching a Europa League final on FIFA. But yeah, anyway. Mike Phelan retire. Kieran McKenna back to the academy. He was great there. Michael Carrick as assistant coach to one of Rangnick's coaches, says Cass. Look, it's going to be very exciting to see what happens. But I wouldn't write any player off. I think there is real opportunity for these players to develop. Develop is really important. I'll keep saying it forever. I don't think Mason Greenwood's any different a player apart from physically from when he was 17 in the youth setup. You remember the goals. Assad, thank you very much for the super chats. You remember the goals that Mason Greenwood was scoring that we used to see when he was in the under 17s, under 18s. He was scoring these wonder goals and everyone was going, generational talent. At Manchester United, he still scores these goals. Has he developed his overall game? Is his possessional sense good? Is his build-up play good? Is his tracking back good? No, he's just still the same player where they go, Macy, go and score a goal. And he's capable of doing that. It's not fair on the lad. I think Mason Greenwood's got, world-class potential. He's only going to achieve that if he's taught the rest of his game. And look, Rashford's the same. Rashford's a little bit older, but he's still got development in him. And I don't think they've been developed. I think they're brilliant players, but I think they've got more development in them. And therefore, why does Bruno Fernandes not have more development in him? Bruno Fernandes runs around a lot. Is he intelligent in the way that he runs around a lot? I don't think he is, because I don't think he's been taught to be. I think that, Donny van der Beek's got a lot of potential anyway because of Ajax. Jadon Sancho's got a lot of it because of the Dortmund training he's had. But, there will be a diamond in the rough. There will be a player that we thought was shit and becomes amazing. And hopefully there's 2 or 3. It might be Wan-Bissaka. And I don't think Wan-Bissaka's shit, but I think people do think his game's a bit limited. Maybe he will just explode. Maybe Harry Maguire will explode. Maybe Scott McTominay. Maybe Fred. Who knows? I think that will happen. But I think what we're going to see is that I think we spend a lot of time talking about the Ole era, and I'm very, very blunt on the Ole era. I don't think in hindsight it was that good. We didn't win any trophies. The football was very poor. And he deservedly got sacked, and we move on. That's what you should do in football. But I would also say double it up. I'm not just talking about the Ole era here. I'm talking about the last 6 years. I'm talking about Mourinho football as well. Mourinho football was nothing like this either. So this is not just 3 years being thrown in the bin. This is the last 6 years being thrown in the bin, because Rangnick, in contrast to all of our managers, is very different in a good way. Do you think Sancho was worth the investment and maybe has turned the corner, says Smitty? Well, I think Jadon Sancho, his career at Manchester United starts now. I think Donny van der Beek's career starts now. And I think Alex Tellez's career starts now. And I think Ahmad's career starts now. I think all those players that we brought into the club that have never really been given an opportunity, their career really starts now. And it's what they do with that that's important. I'm more excited about the connection Ralf will bring from all over Europe when it comes to signing some real young talent, says Alan, and he says #WreckItRalf. Just on the banner for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because I don't want to miss that. So apparently this 20 legend banner is going to go round the ground on Thursday. I don't have a massive problem with it, because ultimately I don't really have a massive problem with any fans expressing an opinion they want to express. I can disagree with it if I want to. I can agree with it. That's opinion, but I'm not going to moan at people doing that. I get why people disagree with it. I get why people really want to do it, and ultimately the people who want to do it will do it, and fair play to them. For me, when he was sacked, I said, look, and I said it consistently on the build-up to his sacking, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will always be a legend to me as a player. That will never be affected, and it never has been. At no point have I thought, oh, his crap football as a manager is really starting to make me dislike him for scoring a winner in the treble season. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I loved Solskjaer as a player. I still do. He's still a legend. As a manager, I'd like to just move on from it as quick as possible and forget it ever happened. It didn't go the way it was meant to go. So when they do that on Thursday night, it's a nice tribute to a man to let him know that the fans still love him, I suppose. But I don't think it can be a thank you for what you did as a manager, because ultimately that 3 years has just been a waste of time, hasn't it? But that happens with managers. I don't know why people take it so personally. It was a failure as a 3 years. There's nothing, and the reason it's a failure is because we're bringing a manager in that's going to rip it all apart. There's no structure there. There's no continuity there. It's going to be torn apart. So quite rightly. So look, Solskjaer's a legend, and I think Thursday night's a thank you to Solskjaer to let him know that he's still a legend, because it ended in a sad way. And if people want to do that, that's up to them, isn't it? Greenwood robbed of the Ballon d'Or. And Messi won the Ballon d'Or, didn't he? Yeah. What do you think about the Brian Robson documentary? I've not seen it yet, Joseph. Not seen it yet. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And Mark, don't get me wrong, I'm buzzing for Ralf, but can you just give a quick word on what if it doesn't work with Ralf? Where do we go if Ralf is a flop, says Andrew. Well, look, you're taking me perfectly, Andrew, into what I just wanted to talk about here. So there was a topic in The Athletic. Ronaldo is our third quickest player this season, says Mo. There's a topic in The Athletic from David Ornstein saying that Pochetino, Lars Konetka is not coming, says Pratosaurus Rex. Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that a lot before. It hasn't been announced yet, but the leak is that Messi's won it. So Lars Konetka's going to stay at Lokomotiv Moscow. There was hope that he was going to come, but apparently he's going to stay. So yeah. You think Ronaldo will be the experienced player in the field used by Rangnick to give that extra push for players such as Sancho? Look, Isma, on the Ronaldo thing, I'm telling you right now, if you're against Ronaldo, or you're thinking about going against Ronaldo, and you're thinking about making Ronaldo a scapegoat, because I've seen these agendas kick in the club before. People make their mind up about a player and they won't come back. If you're thinking about going against Ronaldo, I'll tell you now, save your stress. This ain't going the way you think it's going to go. Cristiano Ronaldo is going to prove everybody why he's the best player in the world. I'm not even going to say wrong. How's he got to prove people wrong? He's having a very good season in a shit side. But I will tell you for a fact, and I was told this today anyway, and I've heard it from lots of other people when I've been listening to things and reading things. There is no way in a million years Manchester United have interviewed Ralf Rangnick and not asked him about Cristiano Ronaldo. And if Ralf Rangnick had said, he doesn't fit into how I want to work things, I probably won't use him that much, he would not be our manager now. Ralf Rangnick has said to the club, Cristiano Ronaldo is an intrinsic part of my plans, and I intend to use him as much as possible. And that will be one of the big reasons they want to take him on. And also, his leadership is invaluable. So I'm not worried about Ronaldo in any way at all. And personally, I just think it's the old media build him up and knock him down. And unfortunately, they've tried to knock down. They'll never learn. On the managerial thing, Athletic David Ornstein said that Rangnick having a big say in the manager might not be a good thing for Pochettino. Now, hold your horses here, because there is a story. So, Pochettino, I was reading today from France that PSG would have let Pochettino go if they'd had a ready-made replacement, probably Zidane, and United had paid them the fee of, I think, was like 10 million quid. Well, they didn't have that ready-made replacement. So, but what they're saying in the Athletic, and I do tend to agree with them, is that it's not that Rangnick being at the club's a bad thing for Pochettino. But remember, I've always said this about Pochettino and Man United. I feel like they are ships that pass in the night. They never dock in the same harbour. It always seems to not happen. And I just don't think Pochettino and Man United actually will happen. I just think it's always going to be just not quite the right time. But what they were saying is that along with Ollie, it is time for Pogba to go as well, says Varane. Well, what I was saying is that so in the Athletic, they were saying that Rangnick being involved in the next managerial appointment might not be a good thing for Pochettino. But what they went on to say is that's not because Rangnick wouldn't want Pochettino. There are similarities in some ways in relation to the way Pochettino wants to play football and the way Rangnick wants to play football. But what they were saying, and it's a good thing, is that the problem that Rangnick might have with Pochettino is nothing to do with Pochettino. It's about he will want to bring in the best possible manager for Manchester United. And Pochettino might not be that. The obvious, media-driven choice might not be the best man for the job. And what that means is, and this is absolutely correct, is that Rangnick's here for 7 months. He's going to look at that club. He's very involved in the structure rebuild of that club over the next 3 years. He'll look at that club and go, well, if we want to play this way, we need 2 players. If we're going to play a different way, if we're going to play the way Pochettino plays, we might need 6 players. I want to bring a manager in that's going to suit this squad, suit this situation. And also, the best manager for Manchester United might not be a popular manager. It might not be a Zidane or a Pochettino. Remember, Pochettino was a good manager at Southampton. Nagelsmann was a good manager at Leipzig. There might be a manager that Rangnick goes to the club and says, look, you don't need to spend millions of pounds on somebody. This is the guy. Maybe it'd be a Ten Hag. You just don't know. So, and that's the process I want to happen, to be honest. I don't want us to be talking about a manager now and for the next 7 months. I'd like us to have discussions about it, but I'd really like to be going, let's really deep dive about this well into next year, February, March time, when, we're a little bit close to where we need to be. And ultimately, it's not like signing a player. Man United cannot, if Man United decide they're going to go for a manager in May, where's their summer signings coming from? Because you don't start then looking at your summer signings. This manager that comes in is going to have to be very much controlled by Rangnick and Pochettino and Murtaugh for the first year. Well, Pochettino might not like that because he's just had it at PSG. So I wouldn't be too confident that it's going to be Pochettino, but let's wait and see. I mean, one thing that came into my head is that Michael Carrick. I hope I'm completely wrong about this, but what if Rangnick comes into the team, right? Trains the team, likes working with Carrick, and says, you know what, I think he'd be a good manager. I mean, it can't happen. That can't happen. That can't happen. We've got to have a specialist, haven't we? Bain Varane will be unreal with the high line. If Ahmad is playing, does he start over Sancho and Greenwood? Says MMA takedown. I mean, look, I'll go back to what Romano said on the show this afternoon. We've got too many attackers. We spoke about this before the season started. I mean, if I went back to the page of August, I don't know where it is, I would see a note listing all the attackers that we had. I said it at the start of the season. Many of you agreed. We play with 3 forwards. We play a left forward, a right forward, and a striker. Well, let's go through the positions. Okay, Rashford. Let me just move that cup. So we've got Rashford, Ronaldo, Sancho. We've got Rashford, Ronaldo, Sancho. We've got Martial, Cavani, Greenwood. So that's 6. Lingard, Ahmad, matter. That's 9. You know, that's 9 just for the front 3 positions. So we've got too many players. Too many players. And we're going to have to shed some of those players. You know, you start playing Ahmad, which may be unlikely. Where's Greenwood going? You play Martial, where's Rashford going? You know, you start playing Cavani, where's Ronaldo? So there is rotation, but we've got too many players to even rotate. Let's get Nagelsmann, he's class, says Demi. And Mark, do you think there will be any shock exits in the summer, says James Smith? Well, there's got to be, hasn't there? But at the moment, it's too early. Hi, Mark. It was my 48th birthday on Friday and was too busy to catch you live. But for the first time in a long time, I'm optimistic about our future, says Stephen Atkinson. Well, happy birthday, Stephen, for Friday. I'm sure you'll get a lot of that in the chat. And yeah, I mean, optimism is key, isn't it? I still feel like we're getting it in stages. I just want him to be at Carrington because that's when it really kicks in. I'm worried about that Chelsea game, and I want to see what happens. You know, what's going to happen next with Manchester United, and to do that, we need to see. You know, we need to find out what's happening with this work permit and when we can really start moving. What's going on with my mouse here? It's gone a bit slow. I'm just seeing if there's any updates on anything. Manchester United are willing to give money to Ralf Rangnick to strengthen the squad this January transfer window. This is coming from Hurst Class. Amadou Hadara, the Leipzig defensive midfielder, is one of the options Rangnick is considering. He would have a release clause of 33 million. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? We were talking about him on Saturday. We've actually already spoken about him, and I believe 23-year-old. Rangnick knows a lot about him. He started at Salzburg with him, moved to Leipzig. Strong, combative, CDM. CDM's probably a bit unfair. Midfielder, but trained and ingrained in the way that Rangnick wants to play football. So, it'd be interesting to see. I was talking to somebody earlier this evening, and we were talking about January and whether it would be likely that we'd sign anybody, and we were sort of both talking, and the person I was talking to was saying, well, I don't think United will do anything in January. Trippier looked realistic, but Trippier was very much a Solskjaer thing. Would Rangnick want Trippier? Maybe we will go in for Trippier, but I think there will be money available because there's no guarantee that he will leave. There's no guarantee. Rangnick's not going to leave in the summer, is he? He's part of the club. I think people need to get their head around what the principle of the Rangnick appointment is. It is to not be here until May and then piss off. It is to be here for 7 months with the first team and then move into a role where he's involved in the continued build of it's a rebuild of Manchester United. That's what it is. It's like what he did at Leipzig. It's like that's what he's here to do. So, as I said a few minutes ago, you can't appoint a manager in June and then expect to have a good season next season when the manager's got to assess everything. The new manager's got to come in with the trust of Rangnick and trusting Rangnick, because he's going to do things over the next few months that are going to be very impactful on next season. So it would make sense to me that we did actually buy players in January. Not loads, but maybe 1 or 2. I can see people are getting stressed about the Ballon d'Or going to Messi. I tweeted about it before. I knew it was going to happen, and Lewandowski should have won it, but Messi was always going to win it. Simple as that. Hi Mark, it's my birthday today, and Rangnick is a great birthday present from United, says Costa. Absolutely loving your shows. I'm training with the RAF away from home, and your shows keep me going. Thank you, says Mark. Thank you for watching, Mark. And look, we are live every night, so as you probably know. So look, we've got a great community, and I'm glad that it gives you that consistency and something to watch, and all the best in your training. Rangnick is going to get midfielders probably, says Vincent. Well, look, it doesn't matter whether it's Rangnick, Pochetino, or Ole like that. Doesn't matter what the principle is. Doesn't matter who the manager is. We know we need midfielders. This is not, oh, Rangnick's here, we're going to buy a midfielder. He'll buy a different type of midfielder. I certainly think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer probably would have spent 90 million on Declan Rice. Whether Rangnick will spend that money on Declan Rice, he might do. He might like Declan Rice. He might say, I can get someone as good as Declan Rice for a third of the price. So, look, for, I did say we'd talk about this. I'm very happy because this is what I wanted Manchester United to do. I've wanted United to do this for a long time. For people who've been watching the United stand for a long time, we've spoken about director of football, and I feel that Rangnick is the right sort of director of football, even though he won't be a director of football. I think he will be very close to the director of football. I wanted somebody who was a football person to come in and restructure that football club. And that's what you're going to get with Rangnick. I wanted somebody to come in who had no touch point with the club. I felt we were becoming jobs for the boys. I wanted somebody to come into the club with specialism, who's a specialist in football, not a specialist in a Wikipedia appearances for Manchester United. I wanted that person to play good football, which he does. We've spoken about that for a bit tonight. And I wanted that person to know football around Europe so that we could see a French midfielder with potential coming into our midfield, or a German winger, or a Portuguese number 10, or whatever. And I wanted to see that more regularly than 50 million on an English right back or 80 million on an English centre back. Nothing against those players. I think they can have a good future at the club. But economically, look, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka and Sancho, that's £200 million on a winger, a right back and a centre back. And look, I like them all, but what would you get for the equivalent around Europe? You wouldn't spend, well, you'd probably get them for half the price. So, and they might just be as good. So this is what I wanted at Manchester United. I think we can be more efficient in how we spend money. I think we can be a better football side, and I think we can have a better structure where we're planned. Because look, you look at Klopp at Liverpool. No matter how many more years he does at Liverpool, the last however many years he's been there has been structured and a plan and a philosophy. Same with Man City and Pep. No matter how many more years he's there, they've had structure and a philosophy that's successful. And look, Tuchel, no matter how long he's at Chelsea, they do have that as well. Manchester United, it's never felt like we've had that, and maybe now we do. Ralf might insist on his old player Haaland, suits his style and is young, and 63 million clause is a steal, says Gaza. Well, look, I was going to ask Romano about Haaland, and then I didn't bother because I just thought, I presume his answer would be, well, no decisions yet. Manchester United are interested. Mark, I can see that the dark cloud that has been glooming over us to finally blow away. Come the days to rest this negativity and rebuild our broken fortress, says Apollo. Yeah. Well, look, the funny thing is about that is that I will never tell. And I'm going to do a preview for Arsenal tomorrow afternoon, so don't worry about that. But Zed Jamie says he's sad to see Lars Karetka not coming in as an assistant. Look, I think we wanted that to happen. I know next to nothing about that person. I know a fair bit about Ralf Rangnick. I'm not an encyclopedia on him. I think Levin is probably way better than me on that. But I do know who he is, and I know how he wants to play football. Lars, I knew next to nothing on. I just was excited because I was like, well, it's not Carrick or Phelan. I don't like the thought of Rangnick coming in on his own because there's a lot wrong with that football club. If he comes in with a few specialists, it just makes it easier. So hopefully that can still happen. Great to see Woodward not on the announcement, says Jonathan. And rebuilding, I really liked the fact that Murta was on the announcement because it just gave it more credibility because he knows what he's on about. Rebuilding a Leipzig and rebuilding United is completely different. At Leipzig, there was no ego. Everyone listened to Ralf, but United will be different, says Mazem. It's going to be difficult, yeah. It's going to be difficult. Zlatan said United is fantastic, but they focus too much on their past. I agree with him, but now for once I'm actually excited about the future, says Pepe. Look, when Sir Alex Ferguson came to Manchester United, he said all the right things, but he didn't come in with a past. He came in with a future. It's a reset. It's a new Manchester United. So I'm very excited about it. And, let's wait and see what happens. And just on that previous point about negativity, people throw negativity out the world like they're a super fan. The reality is, if you think about what we've been talking about, I know many of you were Ollie out for a long time, and fair play, I respect that. But for me, I was still Ollie in until, the Liverpool game, really. That was the one where I went, if we lose this, I'm out. So, Ole basically got well over 2.5 years of backing from me and many other fans, where most of it was positive backing. So there was a couple of times where I was like, this needs to end, but mainly I was still giving him a chance. 2.5 years is a long time for somebody who never really showed us an identity. I would hope that with Rangnick, he gets a clear 7 months with no media pressure, no ex-player pressure, no fan pressure. He's taken on a very difficult situation with a bunch of players that are not used to playing this way of football. He's coming in with the right ideas and the right principles. There's no guarantee it's going to work, but I hope he is given the patience that we've given to managers that probably didn't deserve it. Mourinho got a lot of patience as well. This is in a sentence, this is not a rebuild. This is a demolition job. I mean, it's the opposite of what Moyes did, but it's the same principle. Manchester United were the greatest club in England. David Moyes came in with a wrecking ball, broke it all apart, sacked all the backroom staff and brought his own lot in and messed it up. Rangnick's coming in, the club's in a mess, and he's going to break it all up and try and build it again because it needs that. So, of course, that's going to take some time. Do you reckon this finally shows some sort of competence from the Glazers with regard to United's best interest? Still Glazers out, though, says Charlie. Look, since Sir Alex Ferguson, this is the most sensible decision they've made around the managers. Yeah. We just got to wait and see if it works. Neville better do some bloody backing, says Gabriel Noel. Well, look, if they need calling out, I ain't bothered about doing it. I get called out enough. I'm not afraid to call these people out if I feel they're being unfair. I did it yesterday. It's interesting. I was listening to the Manchester Evening News podcast today, and they were talking about it as well, about how Gary Neville, well, I think Samuel Luckhurst called it claptrap, that Gary Neville was talking about that team being picked by Rangnick, and it was very obvious that it wasn't. So, who knows why that was said, but the reality is, I really think it doesn't need to be said. But as I said this morning, the amount of patience given to a football team that was not playing good football for 2 years because that manager used to play for our club, I would hope that we are giving the same patience to a manager who is trying to get us to play in a way that's more befitting of Manchester United. And I would hope that he is given that patience and he's not given frustration because he didn't used to play for the club. But fans will monitor that. They will monitor that and they will know instantly. Some people don't like change. Some people liked it that Ole played for the club because it all felt very familiar and nice. Some people won't like the fact that we've now got a manager that's got no touch point, no relationship with any of these ex-players and, is very professional. But I said this a few weeks ago. I craved what Man City have got, what Liverpool have got, what Chelsea have got, where the media are respecting and respectful towards those managers. They don't dare say, Carrick didn't know Jurgen Klopp when he came to the club. Didn't know anything about him, wasn't his mate. He might well be now over the years, but, they wouldn't dare say anything about Klopp, even though Carrick is a United legend. Gerrard wouldn't dare say anything about Klopp either, because he's come in as a professional manager and earned the respect and rebuilt that football club. So and it's not a coincidence that Pep did it at Man City, and it's not a coincidence that Tuchel did it at Chelsea. That's why I wanted this type of manager with no touch point, no friends, no mates rates, who comes in with a professional job and a CV and doesn't have to worry about what people are saying in the media. Doesn't have, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was constantly being asked about, Scholes said this, Keane said that. Well, I know Keane, Rangnick, Roy Keane said this. I don't need to answer that question. I've got respect for Roy Keane as a legend of the football club, but I don't need to answer that question. That's all you want. Block it off, professional, let's go. And I'm looking forward to it. And I hope it works. I really, really do. But as I said, there are no guarantees, and you won't catch me going, we're going to win the league, we're going to win the Champions League or anything like that, because we've been doing that since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. We're a long way from where we need to be. We play crap football. We don't get anywhere near trophies. And look, we got to a final in the Europa League, but that's not the trophy. I mean, I heard Rashford on about it the other day, talking about we were so close winning a major trophy. I don't think the Europa League's a major trophy. So we're nowhere near where we need to be. We don't play the way we need to be. The squad probably isn't quite right yet. There's a lot of work to do. And I'm looking forward to it. It feels like we're finally being professional, a proper club. We deserve this, says Edby. Yeah, well, let's just see. And as I said, really, really hope that we're going to get Rangnick. I don't even know if he's in England. So, you know, that's the best thing that we need to find out. You know, Man United are back in training tomorrow, and let's see what happens. Anyway, look, Merry Christmas. Trees up, 2 trees, snowing out the window. And on that note, before we go, don't forget, you too could have one of these beauties. Not necessarily with me on. You probably could get me on. The image is probably out there somewhere, but you could put any image on there as long as it's a good quality one. It could be your favourite player. You could get a five-a-side team on your wall of your favourite players. It might not even be a footballer. It could be something else. Any image you want on there, including yourself. Name, badge, thing, stats. 30% off. It's Cyber Monday through the link in the video description. Big shout out to Cards Plug. Fully customisable. You can also get the metal ones, which are fantastic as well. May as well get that out and show you. Hello, Cantona. And there it is there as well. These metal ones are fantastic. I mean, the green bits aren't showing up, unfortunately, but fantastic quality. They come with the magnets that you can put them up on the wall. Sticky magnets. Goes up on the wall. Fantastic. Links in the video description. Big shout out to Cards Plug. Fantastic little presents that you can get for Christmas. You could get some for yourself, for your mates, kids, whatever. Your mates' kids. Thanks everyone for watching. We're back tomorrow with the morning show. We've got the Arsenal preview in the afternoon. Lots going on. I can't wait for that game. And hopefully we'll get Rangnick in Manchester training the team. That's what I want to see. Can't wait for it. But thanks everyone tonight. I've really enjoyed the show. Loads watching. Really enjoyed that chat about Rangnick, which is from his own mouth. This is not what I think or what a journalist thinks. This is from his own mouth. Thanks everyone for watching. Speak to you all in a bit. Fantastic show. Really enjoyed it tonight. And take care.